The one thing that's a guarantee in life, in football, Antonio Conte, 1 game a week, you don't want to come up against him. You don't want to come up against him. And I feel like if Antonio Conte's Napoli go on to win the Scudetto this year, it deserves a heap of praise. Why? Because he's a manager that's now faced adversity this season that so many other managers don't experience when competing for the Scudetto. Losing Kvaratskhelia and not getting a replacement, and then arguably your second best player of the season in Neres being injured, and now you have to chop and change and find a way to win. It's impressive. Napoli won. Inter won. I feel like we learned a lot today about Inter. And I feel like there's alarm bells. There are alarm bells at Inter, which a lot of people aren't speaking about. But I learned a lot about Antonio Conte. The way he can rally the troops. The way he can get his best players to perform in the big games when it matters most. And I'm speaking about Lobotka. What a game. What a performance. It was worthy of man of the match. And he got man of the match. But let's just look at his performance. 90% pass accuracy. 2 key passes. 1 assist. 3 out of 3 duels won. 7 defensive actions. And let's not forget, man of the match. Now, if you look at the game equalizing goal, something that Napoli deserved, they probably deserved more than a draw. But you could see Lobotka, he has the ball in Inter's half. And Inter, they're in their defensive shape. They've got everybody back. But I've always said one of my favourite things in any player is a player that can progress play with his ball carrying. The opposition would rather you pass the ball than carry it and charge at them. He gets the ball, he turns, he charges. He's taken the game to Inter. Give and go with Scott McTominay. But now this is the beauty. This is the in-game intelligence. He gets the ball into a dangerous area. Now it's all about being decisive. Don't go for glory. Don't go for goal. Don't try and score the perfect goal. Look for your teammates. Gets into the final third. Decisive action, spot on. Passes it to Billing off the bench. First strike save. Gets onto the rebound. And you could see from the celebrations. Lobotka, for me, he was amazing. He ran the show. But I feel like what helped him the most, he had 2 midfield partners which really stepped up. And this is where I do look at Antonio Conte, because it's not as if those 2 midfield partners are world beaters. No, if anything, they were 2 players that were deemed surplus to requirements at their previous employers. Billy Gilmour alone today made more progressive passes into Inter's own half than the entire trio of Barella, Çalhanoğlu and Mkhitaryan. What does that tell you about Billy Gilmour? A player that was consistently finding the attacking players at the right space, at the right time. It helps. It helped Napoli a lot. But I feel like today's game was the battle of the 3-2-5s. Both teams set up the same off the ball. Both teams set up the same on the ball. And where Antonio Conte, I feel like he got it spot on. But this is where the alarm bell for Inter was. Antonio Conte, he went man to man. It was like, look, Inter off the ball, they like to set up in a back 5. No problem. Di Lorenzo joining the attack. Spinazzola joining into the attack. Raspadori, Politano, you tuck inside. Play next to Lukaku. They went man to man in attack. They went man to man in midfield. Billy Gilmour, Scott McTominay, Lobotka against Mkhitaryan, Barella, Çalhanoğlu, and then Rahimi and Buongiorno in defence. They went man to man. And where the deciding moment was the fact that Napoli went man to man. But they won their duels. They came out on top. They won the majority of their duels in the air, on the ground. They were assertive. They were penetrative in their passing. They wanted the game more. And this is where I do look at Antonio Conte. And I'm like, you rallied the troops. You told them this is a massive game. This is a game we can't lose. Like in periods in the second half, Napoli, 70% of the ball. On average, 62%, 19 shots, more passes, more corners. They were all over this Inter team. They went man to man, but they made sure. When you go man to man, I feel like it's very risky because all it takes is one player to do the wrong job, to not stick to his man, to have a lapse in concentration, and you lose the game. They went man to man, but they came out on top. And they probably deserve to win this game. But where the alarm bells for Inter are reigning Scudetto winners. And I feel like the problem is when you win the Scudetto, it becomes 10 times more difficult to do it the following season. Because now the opposition, they know how you play. They know who your best players are, where you're most penetrative, which areas you target the most. What you need to do, one, as a coach, rally the troops. Find a different way of playing. If you want to stick to your current way of playing, add a few more better players into the mix. When you look at their recruitment, Inter, financially, they're struggling. You look at the recruitment, it hasn't really been the best. Like, none of their players that they signed in the summer walk into the starting 11. At best, they walk to the bench and they come off for 20, 30 minutes. This team needs quality, but what this team needs more than anything is physicality. Inter are the oldest team in this area. And the way life works, the way football works is the older you get, the more you begin to decline physically, especially when you bear in mind players are playing every 2-3 days. Inter are juggling 3 competitions as of now: Coppa Italia, Champions League, Serie A, and they've got a solid chance of winning all 3 of them. But the players, requiring them to play every single week. The football, it's intense, it's demanding. These players begin to give way. And if there was one way for me to describe this Inter team tonight, tired. I'm not going to say tactically they were schooled, or they definitely were out of fault, but it's not a matter of tactic, it's not a matter of quality, it's not a matter of talent, it's just a matter of tiredness. Napoli, 1 game a week, the energy was there. Inter, tired. Barella, one of his worst performances. Mkhitaryan, not as involved. Çalhanoğlu, as soon as DeMarco went off, they looked toothless. It looked like they wouldn't score, and they didn't. But recruitment, you need to recruit correctly. If not, you're shooting yourself in the foot. But Antonio Conte, Napoli, this is definitely a point gained. I feel like, if anything, this is 2 points dropped by Inter. Inter, they needed to create that little gap, especially when they know we've still got other competitions to worry about. We don't have the luxury of resting every single week. Antonio Conte, keep the gap as small as possible. Take it into April. Take it into May. Take it into the business end of the season, when you now know Inter, they've got Champions League. They've got 2 legs with the Coppa Italia against Milan. Take it in to the final few months, the final few weeks of the season, especially when you look at their running. In Milan, Napoli's last 7 games are against teams in the bottom half. They've only got Bologna and Milan, and then the rest is in the bottom half. Can't say the same about Inter. Inter, Lazio, Roma, Bologna, Atalanta, and on top of that, Champions League, Coppa Italia, and the team is tired. I worry for them. I really, really, really do. And I feel like they might reach a position where they have to sit down and tell themselves, maybe we will sacrifice the Coppa Italia in order to give ourselves that rest, that boost for the Champions League, for the Scudetto, winning it back to back. But Antonio Conte, he's a manager that's faced a lot of adversity, losing his best player in Kvaratskhelia, not getting a replacement, not really seeing eye to eye with De Laurentiis because of how January went. He's been chopping and changing with the formations. Neres is injured, but he's still finding a way to rally the troops. And it's true. Antonio Conte, 1 game a week, with a point to prove, against all odds, in a team where, let's be real, nobody even expected them to be competing for the Serie A, let alone standing a solid chance of winning it. This is an Antonio Conte that's motivated. This is an Antonio Conte that's there to silence everybody. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm seeing the rumours of him to Milan, of him to Juventus. He is, without a doubt, as of this season, the hottest property in the Serie A. The fact that he's managed to get this team to compete for the Serie A, to stand a solid chance of winning it, with a lack of investment, losing your best player against the other teams in the Serie A, it says a lot about his coaching, about his man management, about his experience, about him tactically, everything. Everything about Antonio Conte. And this game ends 1-1. A 1 point gain for Napoli. 2 points dropped for Inter.